Good evening all, and welcome back to Silent Souls. Tonight, we're hitting the road with 10 disturbing, true trucker horror stories. These accounts come from long-haul drivers, dispatchers, and highway patrol officers who encountered something on America's endless interstates that still haunts them to this day. Each story is a terrifying nightmare, pulled straight from the darkest stretches of our nation's most isolated highways. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to Silent Souls for daily true horror content that will keep you up at night. Hit that notification bell so you never miss when the darkness calls. Now, let's roll into the shadows of America's trucking industry, where the open road becomes a corridor of terror, and every mile marker could be your last. My name is Kevin Allen Morrison, and for 14 years, I've been a long-haul trucker, hauling freight across the Midwest with a 1998 Mack CH613 I named Iron Horse. I'm a guy who thrives on the solitude of the open road, the hum of the engine, and the chatter of the CB radio keeping me company through long nights. I've driven through blizzards, dodged tornadoes, and navigated the flat, endless plains of Kansas, where the horizon stretches forever. On August 23, 2001, I was running a load of agricultural equipment from Kansas City to Denver along Interstate 70, a familiar 600-mile stretch one could drive blindfolded. The night was clear, the air warm at 72 degrees Fahrenheit, and my logbook showed me ahead of schedule after a fuel stop in Salina at 9:15 p.m. But what started as routine chatter on the CB turned into a nightmare that exposed a predator using the airways to hunt truckers, a story that still makes me double-check my radio before every run. I-70 through Kansas is a straight shot of asphalt, flanked by fields of wheat and corn, with truck stops and small towns breaking the monotony every 50 miles or so. My rig was loaded with $80,000 worth of tractor parts, nothing flashy, just heavy machinery for Colorado farmers. I'd checked in with my dispatcher, Linda Hayes, at 9:30 p.m., confirming I'd hit Limon, Colorado, by 2 a.m. for a quick nap. The CB on Channel 19 was lively that night, with drivers swapping road conditions and jokes about diner coffee. Around 10:15 p.m., near mile marker 330 east of Hayes, a new voice broke through, calling himself Nighthawk. His tone was smooth, confident, like a late-night DJ, offering updates on a construction zone near Colby. "Watch for cones at mile 380, boys, and keep it under 60 cops are out tonight," he said. I appreciated the heads-up. Road info from other drivers can save you hours. I keyed the mic. "Thanks, Nighthawk. This is Iron Horse, eastbound. Appreciate the word." Nighthawk responded, but his questions got personal fast. "Iron Horse, what's your load tonight? Where you headed?" I shrugged it off. Truckers talk shop all the time. "Just some farm gear. Denver bound," I replied, keeping it vague. His voice stayed friendly, but he pressed. "Solo run? No co-driver? What's your ETA?" Red flags went up. In 14 years, I'd learned to trust my gut, and something about Nighthawk felt off, like he was fishing for more than conversation. I switched to Channel 9, the emergency band, to test the waters. "Anyone got eyes on that Colby construction?" I asked. Silence, then Nighthawk's voice followed me, clear as day. "Iron Horse, stick to 19. Better chatter there." My stomach tightened. How'd he know I switched channels? At 10:42 p.m., my CB and cell phone started acting up. The radio hissed with static, drowning out other voices, and my phone dropped its signal, despite full bars earlier. I was near mile marker 340, a desolate stretch with no towns for miles. Nighthawk's voice cut through the noise, now cold and deliberate. "Iron Horse, there's a rig in trouble at the rest area. Mile 345. Needs a hand. You close?" I knew that rest area closed for repairs. No lights, no facilities, just a dark lot off the highway. My instincts screamed trap. "Negative, Nighthawk," I replied. "Gotta keep rolling. Dispatch'll send help. His tone turned sharp. You sure, Iron Horse? Wouldn't want you regretting this. The threat hung in the air, and the static spiked, my CB lights flickering. I floored it, pushing Iron Horse to 70 miles per hour, scanning the road for trouble. At 10:50 p.m., headlights appeared in my rear view, a pickup truck, no markings, tailing me close. My CB went dead, then Nighthawk's voice returned. You should have stopped, Kevin. He used my name, not my handle. My blood ran cold. I hadn't shared it, and my rig only had my company logo, not personal details. I grabbed my cell to call 911, still no signal. The pickup stayed on me, weaving slightly, like it was testing my nerve. I kept my speed steady, knowing a sudden brake could force a collision. At mile marker 350, I spotted a convoy of 3 rigs ahead, their taillights a lifeline. I flashed my headlights, honking my air horn, and pulled alongside, signaling for help. The lead driver, Maria Torres, radioed back on channel 19. You okay, buddy? I spilled everything Nighthawk, the threat, the tailing pickup. The convoy tightened around me, boxing out the pickup, which peeled off into the darkness at the next exit. We rolled into a truck stop in Goodland, Kansas. At 11:35 p.m., I called the Kansas Highway Patrol from a payphone, my cell still useless. Trooper Daniel Chun arrived at 11:50 p.m., taking my statement and checking my rig. The CB's wiring was intact, but the antenna showed signs of electromagnetic interference, like it had been jammed. Chun's team traced similar reports. Over the past year, 8 truckers on I-70 reported a voice called Nighthawk, luring them to isolated spots, rest areas, closed exits, even fake accident scenes. 3 drivers hadn't made it home. Their trucks were found empty, cargoes stolen, one found dead in a ditch near Oakley, beaten and robbed. Detective Sandra Lee, a 10-year veteran with expertise in highway crimes, led the investigation. Lee uncovered that Nighthawk was Gerald Wickham, 38, a former trucker turned predator. Wickham had lost his commercial license in 1999 for DUI and had a grudge against the industry. Using a modified CB radio with illegal amplifiers, he could overpower signals, jam phones, and track drivers' locations by triangulating their transmissions. His setup, found in a rented trailer near Salina, included police scanners, stolen trucking manifests, and maps marked with rest areas and truck stops. He targeted solo drivers with valuable loads, luring them with fake distress calls, then robbing or worse. My refusal to stop likely saved me from being his 9th victim. Lee's team set a sting on September 5, 2001, using an undercover trucker on I-70. Wickham took the bait, directing the driver to a closed-way station. Highway Patrol swooped in, arresting him at 1:17 a.m. with a loaded .45 and a jamming device. His trailer held $200,000 in stolen cargo electronics, tools, even pharmaceuticals. Wickham confessed to 3 murders and 12 robberies, earning 25 years without parole in Kansas's El Dorado Correctional Facility. The case led to federal reforms, stricter CB regulations, bans on high-power amplifiers, and warnings at truck stops about suspicious radio chatter. My rig's CB was repaired, but I never trust Channel 19 the same way. Truckers still talk about Nighthawk, a ghost in the static, and I keep my mic off on lonely stretches, listening for voices that know too much. My name is Rebecca Lynn Torres, and for 11 years, I've been a long-haul trucker, hauling freight across the western states with a 2003 International 9900 I call Red Thunder. I'm a single mom from Cheyenne, Wyoming, known for my grit, my clean safety record, and my knack for handling the toughest mountain routes. On April 3, 2009, I was running a load of construction material, steel beams and cement bags, from Salt Lake City to Denver, along Interstate 80, a 500-mile stretch through Wyoming's high plains and rugged peaks. It was a routine job, one I'd done dozens of times, with a delivery deadline at 6 a.m. the next day. The weather was clear, 38 degrees Fahrenheit, with a light wind kicking up dust across the open range. But at 8:47 p.m., on a steep downgrade near Sinclair, my brakes failed, plunging me into a life-or-death struggle that uncovered a vengeful saboteur targeting truckers with deadly precision. This is the story of how I survived the sabotaged rig and exposed a killer hiding in plain sight. I'd started the run at noon, logging a fuel stop in Rock Springs at 6:15 p.m. and checking in with my dispatcher, Corinne Walsh, at 7:30 p.m. near Rawlins. My rig was in top shape, freshly serviced, brakes inspected 2 days earlier at a certified shop in Cheyenne. I carried a $90,000 load, nothing high value enough to attract thieves, just heavy materials for a Denver skyscraper project. I-80 through Wyoming is a beast, long, lonely stretches with grades that test your rig and your nerve. The downgrade at mile marker 110, just east of Sinclair, drops 6% over 3 miles, a notorious spot where runaway trucks aren't uncommon. I'd driven it countless times, always easing off the gas, downshifting, and tapping the brakes to keep Red Thunder under control. At 8:40 p.m., I approached the downgrade, slowing to 40 miles per hour and shifting into a lower gear. The road was empty, my headlights cutting through the dark, with only a few distant taillights from a convoy miles ahead. I tested my brakes. Nothing. No resistance, no hiss of air, just a pedal that sank to the floor. My heart leapt into my throat. No, 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 I muttered, pumping the pedal, hoping for pressure. Nothing. The trailer's weight pushed me faster, the speedometer climbing to 50, then 60 miles per hour. The downgrade's curve loomed ahead, a guardrail on one side, a 200-foot drop on the other. I yanked the parking brake useless, without air pressure. My CB crackled as I shouted, "Breaker, breaker, this is Red Thunder. Mile 110 on I-80, brakes gone, need help." Static answered, but I kept broadcasting, praying someone was listening. At 8:47 p.m., with the speedometer hitting 75 miles per hour, I saw the runaway ramp a gravel pit designed to stop out-of-control rigs, 400 yards ahead. My hands shook, but I steered hard, aiming for the ramp's center. Red Thunder hit the gravel at 80 miles per hour, the cab lurching as the tires sank into the loose fill. The trailer fishtailed, threatening to jackknife, but I held the wheels steady, the rig slowing as gravel sprayed like a sandstorm. After 200 feet, I stopped, heart pounding, hands white-knuckled on the wheel. I radioed again. "Red Thunder, I'm in the ramp. Mile 110, brakes failed, send help." A driver, Tom Chun, responded, "Hang tight, sister. I'm 10 miles back, calling it in." Wyoming Highway Patrol arrived at 9:15 p.m., led by Trooper Maria Gonzalez, a 9-year veteran. Gonzalez secured the scene, noting the ramp's churned gravel and my rig's intact exterior. I was shaken but unhurt, my logbook and thermos still in the cab. Mechanics towed Red Thunder to a Sinclair shop, where a 10 p.m. inspection revealed the truth. My brake lines were cut clean, deliberate slices through the air hoses, not wear or accident. The electronic control module showed tampering, disabling the backup system. This wasn't mechanical failure, it was sabotage. Gonzalez's face hardened. "This is attempted murder," she said, calling in the Wyoming Division of Criminal Investigation, DCI. DCI agent Robert Hayes, a 14-year investigator with expertise in vehicular crimes, took charge. His team scoured Red Thunder, finding tool marks on the brake lines consistent with a precision blade, likely a utility knife. The tampering happened recently, within 24 hours, based on clean cuts and no corrosion. Hayes interviewed me, my company, and the Cheyenne shop. The shop's records were clean, But a part-time mechanic, Dennis Hutchkins, had quit abruptly 2 weeks earlier after a dispute over unpaid overtime. Hayes dug deeper, uncovering a pattern. 6 other trucks on I-80 had crashed in the past 18 months, 3 fatal, all with brake or steering issues. Drivers included James Lee, dead, April 2008, Sarah Nuveen, dead, August 2008, and Carlos Rivera, injured January 2009. All serviced their rigs at shops where Hutchkins worked. Hutchkins, 41, was a disgraced ex-trucker, fired in 2005 for falsifying logs. Bitter and unemployed, he turned to sabotage, targeting drivers on I-80's dangerous grades to punish the industry that rejected him. His method was meticulous. Infiltrate shops as a temp mechanic, cut brake lines or loosen steering components, then vanish. My rig was his 7th target, chosen because I'd parked at a Cheyenne lot he accessed. Security footage from the lot showed a hooded figure near my truck at 3 a.m. on April 2nd, matching Hutchkins's build. Hayes set a trap, staking out a Laramie shop where Hutchkins applied for work. On April 15, 2009, DCI arrested him at 7:22 p.m., caught tampering with another rig. His tools matched the marks on my brakes, and his apartment held diagrams of truck systems and a list of targeted drivers, including me. Hutchkins confessed to 6 sabotages, 3 fatal, claiming he wanted justice for his lost career. In March 2010, he was convicted of 3 counts of first-degree murder and 4 counts of attempted murder, sentenced to life without parole in Wyoming State Penitentiary. My testimony, backed by forensic evidence, sealed his fate. The case spurred industry changes, mandatory shop cameras, mechanic background checks, and driver training on pre-trip inspections. I still drive, but I check my brakes myself, every stop, and carry a photo of my daughter to remind me why I survived that ramp. The road's dangerous enough without monsters like Hutchkins rigging it against you. My name is William Edward Thompson, and for 34 years, I've been a long-haul trucker, hauling specialized cargo across the Northeast with a 2014 Volvo VNL I call Ironclad. I'm a 58-year-old from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, known for my meticulous pre-trip inspections, my ability to handle high-stakes loads, and my habit of keeping a detailed journal of every run. On December 22, 2018, I was hauling a $3.2 million load of medical supplies, pharmaceuticals, and surgical equipment from Boston to Philadelphia along Interstate 380, a 400-mile stretch through Pennsylvania's rolling hills. It was my last run before retirement, a bittersweet job after decades on the road. The night was frigid, 28 degrees Fahrenheit, with light snow dusting the highway. What started as a routine delivery turned into a chilling pursuit by a deranged stalker, exposing a twisted plot involving illegal surgeries that nearly ended my career with a nightmare. I picked up the load at a Boston medical warehouse at 3 p.m., signing for a sealed trailer with tamper-proof locks and a manifest listing antibiotics, 4 fluids, and surgical kits. My dispatcher, Karen Lee, confirmed delivery to a Philadelphia hospital by 8 a.m. the next day. Ironclad was in top shape, serviced a week earlier, and I'd checked the brakes, tires, and electronics myself. I hit I-380 at 7:30 p.m. near Scranton, logging my position and planning a fuel stop in Stroudsburg at midnight. The road was quiet, with only a few rigs and cars braving the pre-Christmas chill. My CB on Channel 19 hummed with light chatter drivers complaining about holiday traffic, but nothing unusual. At 9:15 p.m., near mile marker 20, I noticed a white van in my rear view, no markings, keeping a steady 200 yards behind me. It stayed there for 30 miles, never passing, even when I slowed to 55 miles per hour to test it. At 10 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Thompson, I know your load. Pull over at the next rest area, or you'll regret it. My stomach nodded. I hadn't shared my cargo details with anyone but Karen, and my rig's logo didn't list my name. I ignored the text, calling Karen instead. Got a weird message, someone tailing me on I-380. White van, no plates. Check it out. Karen, a 10-year dispatcher, promised to alert the Pennsylvania State Police. Another text came at 10:15 p.m. You're retiring, William. Don't make this your last run. They knew my plan's information. I'd only told my wife, Ellen, and Karen. The van closed in, now 100 yards back, its headlights flickering like a signal. At 11:47 p.m., near mile marker 50, I pulled into a rest area near Tobyhanna to check my trailer. The van followed, parking 50 yards away, engine idling. I grabbed my tire thumper and flashlight, finding the trailer's seal broken, replaced with a fake that matched the original's number, but felt flimsy. I opened the doors. Boxes were shifted, some open, with surgical kits missing. My CB hissed, then a voice. Give us the load, Thompson, or we take you. I locked the trailer, climbed into the cab, and called 911, reporting the tailing van and tampering. The van's driver, a shadowy figure, stepped out, holding what looked like a silenced pistol. I floored it, rejoining I-380, the van in pursuit. For 20 miles, the van stayed on me, weaving through sparse traffic, trying to force me off the road. My phone buzzed with another text. We need those kits for surgeries. Stop now. I radioed on Channel 9. This is Ironclad. Mile 70 on I-380. White van chasing me. Armed. Need backup. A trucker, Maria Santos, responded. I'm 5 miles back. Calling it in. At 12:15 m.m., I reached a brightly lit pilot truck stop in Wilkes-Barre, pulling in among other rigs. The van hesitated, then sped off. State Trooper Daniel Chun arrived at 12:30 a.m., taking my statement and inspecting the trailer. The fake seal and missing kits pointed to a targeted theft, but the texts about surgeries suggested something darker. Pennsylvania State Police called in the FBI, led by Agent Laura Rivera, a 14-year specialist in organized crime. Rivera's team traced the texts to a burner phone linked to Marcus Patterson, a 42-year-old former surgical technician fired from a Boston hospital in 2017 for stealing medical supplies. Patterson had descended into a black market organ trade, performing illegal surgeries in makeshift clinics for cash. My load, high-grade surgical kits, and anesthetics was perfect for his operations. Rivera found my route in hacked dispatch records, leaked by a warehouse insider. The van's driver, identified via truck stop cameras as Patterson's accomplice, was caught at 2:47 a.m. on December 23rd at a rest area on I-81 with stolen kits and a silenced .22. Rivera's sting operation, launched December 25th, raided Patterson's clinic in a Scranton warehouse, finding 15 victims, undocumented immigrants, coerced into organ harvesting. Patterson planned to kidnap me for his next procedure, using my load to equip it. He was arrested with 3 accomplices, charged with attempted kidnapping, theft, and racketeering, earning 30 years in federal prison. The case led to tighter medical cargo security, encrypted dispatch systems, and driver panic buttons. I retired as planned, but I still checked my mirrors, haunted by the van's headlights and the thought of what Patterson intended. The road's my life, but it nearly became my grave. My name is Sarah Michelle Thompson, and I've been a long-haul trucker for 8 years, running routes across the American Southwest with a reputation for tackling the toughest overnight hauls that most drivers, especially the men, shy away from. I'm 29, an owner-operator with a 2001 Freightliner Columbia that's my pride and joy, customized with a reinforced cab, extra locks, and a sleeper that's more home than my apartment in Tucson. On June 14, 2003, I was nearing the end of an 11-hour run from Phoenix to Denver, hauling a load of automotive parts for a General Motors facility in Colorado. It was a routine job, one I'd done dozens of times, with deliveries set for the next morning. The night was warm, about 70 degrees Fahrenheit, with a clear sky dotted with stars over the Arizona desert. I was on Interstate 40, about 47 miles west of Flagstaff, when I pulled into the Sunset Mesa Truck Plaza at 11:23 p.m. for fuel and a quick meal. That stop turned into a nightmare that still wakes me up in a cold sweat. A story of survival against a predator who hunted truckers like prey in the shadows of the open road. Sunset Mesa was a typical mid-sized truck stop, a beacon of neon in the desert darkness with 40 parking spaces, fuel islands, a 24-hour diner, shower facilities, and a convenience store that sold everything from beef jerky to tire gauges. I'd been there countless times, knew the layout like my own rig, the diner with its greasy burgers, the clerk Jenny Martinez, who always had a smile, the rows of rigs parked under flickering sodium lights. I backed my Freightliner into Space 27, locked the cab, and logged my mandatory break in my book, planning to be back on the road within an hour. My trailer was sealed tight, loaded with $50,000 worth of car parts. Nothing fancy, just alternators and brake pads, but enough to keep a factory running. I grabbed my wallet and a tire iron, a habit from years of solo driving, and headed to the store, unaware that someone had been watching me from the moment I pulled in. Security footage later showed a man lurking in the shadows near the rear of the parking lot, moving between rigs for over 4 hours, studying drivers as they came and went. He was Marcus Dale Whitman, 34, a drifter with a history of petty theft and a dark obsession that had turned him into something far worse. Whitman wasn't after quick cash or a joyride. He was a predator, systematically targeting truckers who traveled alone, especially women like me, who he thought were vulnerable. He'd been using Sunset Mesa as his hunting ground, blending into the transient crowd of drivers, lot lizards, and late-night wanderers, picking his targets with chilling precision. Inside the store, I bought a coffee, a turkey sandwich, and a bag of chips, chatting with Jenny, who'd been working the night shift for 3 years. "Quiet tonight, Sarah," she said, ringing me up at 11:47 p.m. Just the usual road warriors. I smiled, unaware that Whitman was outside, circling my rig like a vulture. I headed back, sipping my coffee, the desert air cool against my skin. As I approached my truck, something felt off. The trailer's rear doors were slightly ajar, the security seal cut clean through. My heart sank. "No way," I muttered, checking the lock. It was intact when I parked. Someone had tampered with it while I was inside, maybe 15 minutes ago. I opened the doors, shining my flashlight inside. Several boxes were shifted, as if someone had rummaged through, but taken nothing. Footprints in the dust around the trailer weren't mine size 11 boots, deep and deliberate. I grabbed my cell phone to call my dispatcher, reporting a possible theft attempt, but then I heard it, a soft crunch of gravel behind me. I spun around, tire iron in hand, and there he was, Whitman, 6 feet tall, lean, with a hunting knife glinting in his right hand. His eyes were cold, calculating, like a coyote sizing up a meal. He didn't speak at first, just stood there, blocking my path to the cab. "You need to hang up that phone," he finally said, voice low and flat. My pulse raced, but I kept my dispatcher, Tom, on the line, raising my voice. "Tom, I've got a problem here at Sunset Mesa. Guy with a knife messing with my trailer." Whitman's face twisted, and he stepped closer, the blade catching the light. "Hang it up, or you won't walk away," he growled. I knew this wasn't about cargo. This was personal, predatory. Years on the road had taught me to stay calm, to think fast. I kept talking loud and clear. "He's got a big knife, Tom, and he's threatening me. Send help now." Whitman lunged, the knife slashing toward my arm. I dodged, swinging the tire iron, catching his wrist with a crack. He cursed, stumbling back, but didn't drop the blade. I used my truck as a barrier, circling toward the cab, shouting to keep Tom updated. He's chasing me around the rig. The parking lot was eerily empty, no other drivers, no witnesses, just the hum of idling engines. Whitman was fast, relentless, trying to corner me against the trailer. I swung the tire iron again, aiming for his shoulder, but he ducked, slicing the air inches from my chest. My training kicked in self-defense classes I'd taken after a close call in Nevada 2 years earlier. I kept moving, using the rig's angles to stay out of reach, buying time. At 12:03 A, my shouts finally drew attention. A couple of drivers in the lot heard the commotion and started toward us, flashlights bobbing. Whitman froze and bolted toward the desert beyond the parking lot. I climbed into my cab, locked the doors, and kept Tom on the line until Coconino County Sheriff's Deputy Marcus Chun arrived at 12:11 A. John, a 10-year veteran, took my statement, his face grim as I described Whitman's knife, his deliberate tampering, the footprints. He checked the security footage, confirming Whitman's 4-hour stalk. My trailer seal was professionally cut, the work of someone who knew trucking logistics. Chun called in backup, and a search began, but Whitman was gone, swallowed by the desert. The investigation exploded when Detective Lisa Rodriguez of the Coconino County Major Crimes Unit took over. Rodriguez, with 8 years investigating violent crimes, uncovered a chilling pattern. Whitman wasn't a random thief. He was a serial killer targeting truckers across Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado. Over 18 months, he'd been linked to 7 missing drivers, their bodies later found buried in shallow desert graves, stripped of IDs and personal items. His trophy collection, wallets, watches, even a trucker's wedding ring, was found in a storage unit near Flagstaff, meticulously cataloged with dates and locations. My encounter wasn't his first at Sunset Mesa. 2 other drivers had reported tampering there in the past year, but no one connected the dots until now. Rodriguez's team traced Whitman's movements through truck stop receipts, stolen credit cards, and grainy footage from other facilities. He'd worked briefly as a mechanic at a New Mexico truck stop, giving him insider knowledge of driver routines and cargo security. His method was surgical. Watch for hours, pick lone drivers, tamper with trailers to lure them out, then strike. Women were his primary targets, banking on stereotypes that were easier prey. My fight with the tire iron disrupted his plan, likely saving my life. Forensic evidence, DNA from the storage unit, fingerprints on my trailer, linked him to the murders. On July 10, 2003, Whitman was caught at a truck stop near Albuquerque, carrying a knife and items belonging to a missing driver from Nevada. In March 2004, Whitman pleaded guilty to 4 counts of first-degree murder, assault, and attempted murder, avoiding the death penalty for a life sentence without parole. He's at Arizona State Prison Complex in Florence, his confession revealing 3 more victims' burial sites. The case shook the trucking world. The American Trucking Associations pushed for better lighting, patrols, and cameras at truck stops. Sunset Mesa installed new security systems, and a memorial plaque honors Whitman's victims, naming me for my courage. I still drive, but I park under lights, check my seals twice, and carry a heavier tire iron. The desert hides predators, human and otherwise, and I'll never forget those eyes sizing me up in the dark. My name is James Robert Henderson, and for 23 years, I've been a long-haul trucker, hauling freight across the Pacific Northwest with a 2005 Peterbilt 389 I call Blue Lightning. I'm a 47-year-old widower from Boise, Idaho, known for my meticulous logs, my knack for spotting road hazards, and my habit of keeping a loaded .38 in the cab for emergencies. On July 28, 2012, I was running a load of electronics flat-screen TVs and laptops worth $1.2 million from Portland, Oregon to Salt Lake City along Interstate 84. a 700-mile stretch through Oregon's high desert and Idaho's rolling hills. The night was warm, 68 degrees Fahrenheit, with a clear sky and a full moon casting shadows across the empty highway. At 11:47 p.m., I pulled into the Midnight Junction Truck Plaza near Ontario, Oregon, for fuel and a quick break. What I thought was a routine stop turned into a descent into a criminal underworld, exposing an $8 million cargo theft and human trafficking ring that changed how I see every truck stop. Midnight Junction was a sprawling complex, one of those all-in-one stops with 60 parking spaces, a diner serving greasy hash browns, showers, a repair shop, and a store stocked with everything from CB radios to cowboy hats. I'd stopped there dozens of times, knew the staff cashier Maria Lopez, mechanic Dave Chun, and felt safe parking under the neon glow. I backed Blue Lightning into Space 42, checked the trailer's tamper-proof seal, and logged my 30-minute break at 11:50 p.m. My dispatcher, Tom Rivera, had checked in at 10:30 p.m., confirming my delivery in Salt Lake by 9 a.m. load was high value. So I double-checked the locks and scanned the lot before heading to the store. That's when I noticed them. 3 men in dark jackets, standing near a row of rigs, using handheld radios and gesturing at trailers. They weren't drivers, no company logos, no relaxed banter, just cold efficiency. My gut, honed by 2 decades on the road, screamed trouble. Inside the store, I bought a coffee and a protein bar, keeping an eye on the lot through the window. The men were still there, one pointing a device at a trailer, maybe a scanner, maybe something worse. The store's cameras, I noticed, were angled oddly, focusing on drivers' faces and license plates rather than the lot. The card reader at the checkout asked for my driver's ID number, which wasn't standard. New system? I asked Maria. She shrugged, looking nervous. Boss's orders. I paid cash, avoiding the reader, and headed back to my rig, senses on high alert. At 12:05 a.m., I checked my trailer again. The seal was intact, but a small scratch near the lock wasn't there before. I opened the doors, shining my flashlight inside boxes were untouched, but a faint hum came from the trailer's floor, like electronics. Then I found it, a GPS tracker, military grade, taped under the landing gear, broadcasting my location. I called Tom on my cell, whispering, "Got a tracker on my rig, Midnight Junction. Suspicious guys in the lot, scanning trailers. Something's wrong." Tom, a 12-year dispatcher, patched me through to Oregon State Police. As I waited, one of the men approached, his radio crackling. "Blue Peterbilt, eastbound load, check it," a voice said. He saw me, froze, and backed off, signaling his crew. I climbed into my cab, locked the doors, and started the engine, ready to roll if needed. At 12:20 a.m., headlights swept the Lada black van, no plates, circling slowly. My CB hissed with static, then a voice. "Blue Lightning, stay put. We just want the cargo." My .38 was in my hand now, safety off. Oregon State Police arrived at 12:35 a.m., led by Trooper Sarah Nguyen, a 10-year veteran. I showed her the tracker, the scratch, the hum from the trailer. Nguyen's team detained the 3 men, who claimed to be lot security, but carried no IDs. The van fled, but a license plate check later tied it to a stolen vehicle. Nguyen called in the FBI, suspecting organized crime. At 1:10 a.m., agents opened my trailer under warrant, revealing not just TVs, but hidden compartments with $8 million in stolen tech circuit boards, processors, and encrypted drives, none on the manifest. The tracker was linked to a server in Boise, broadcasting to a syndicate. The hum? Cooling units for the tech, rigged to avoid detection. FBI agent Daniel Foster, a 15-year specialist in cargo theft, took over. Midnight Junction was a front for a trafficking ring, stealing high-value loads and smuggling 12 undocumented immigrants, found locked in a hidden trailer compartment at the plaza. The store's cameras and card readers collected driver data, feeding a database used to target rigs. The security men were part of a 20-person crew led by Victor Salazar, a 42-year-old ex-logistics manager with ties to a Portland crime family. Salazar's team hit 15 truck stops across Oregon and Idaho, stealing $22 million in cargo over 3 years. My alertness spotting the tracker and suspicious activity cracked the case. Foster's sting operation, launched August 5, 2012, used decoy trucks to lure the crew. At 2:47 a.m., FBI and state police raided Midnight Junction, arresting 14 suspects, including Salazar and the plaza's manager, who'd been skimming profits. The plaza closed permanently in September 2012, its lot now an empty husk. Salazar got 25 years for theft, trafficking, and racketeering. The 12 immigrants were granted asylum, their testimonies key to the convictions. The case led to nationwide truck stop reforms, mandatory camera audits, driver data protection, and anti-theft training. I still drive, but I avoid small plazas, check my trailer for trackers, and keep my .38 close. Midnight Junction taught me the road hides traps, and not all are accidents. My name is Patricia Ann Williams, and for 16 years, I've been a long-haul trucker, hauling freight across the South with a 2008 Kenworth T660 I call Southern Star. I'm a 39-year-old from Memphis, Tennessee, known for my no-nonsense attitude, my ability to navigate tight deadlines, and my habit of double-checking every route before I roll. On January 15, 2014, I was assigned a load of consumer electronics smartphones and tablets worth $1.5 million from Memphis to Dallas along Interstate 30, a 450-mile run through Arkansas's winding Wasatch Mountains. The night was cold, 34 degrees Fahrenheit, with patches of fog clinging to the valleys. My dispatcher, Michelle Torres, rerouted me at the last minute, sending me through a remote stretch of Highway 70 instead of my usual I-30 path. What seemed like a minor detour turned into a deadly trap, exposing a corrupt dispatcher running a $6.2 million theft ring that nearly cost me my life and shook the trucking industry to its core. I started the run at 11 a.m., logging a fuel stop in Little Rock at 1:30 p.m. My rig was in top condition, serviced a week earlier with new tires and a full brake inspection. The load was high value, sealed with a tamper-proof lock, and I'd checked the trailer myself at the Memphis depot. Michelle, my dispatcher for 3 years, called at 2:15 p.m., sounding rushed. "Pat, I-30's got a wreck near Benton. Take Highway 70 through Hot Springs, then rejoin I-30 at Malvern. Saves time." I hesitated. Highway 70 was narrow, twisty, with spotty cell service, not ideal for a 53-foot trailer. But Michelle was reliable, and her tone was urgent, so I agreed, updating my logbook at 2:20 p.m. for the detour. I didn't know she'd been paid to send me into an ambush. By 2:47 p.m., I was on Highway 70, 10 miles west of Hot Springs, navigating a steep, forested stretch with no shoulder and a 50-foot drop to a creek below. My engine sputtered, then stalled, completely a first in years. I coasted to a stop, hazards on, and checked the gauges. Fuel gauge read half, but I'd filled up in Little Rock. I tried restarting, nothing. My CB crackled, but channel 19 was silent, and my cell had no bars. I grabbed my flashlight and tire thumper, stepping out to check the engine. The fuel line was clogged, smelling of sugar syrup, a classic sabotage trick to gum up the system. Then I heard gravel crunching behind me. 2 men in dark hoodies emerged from the trees, one holding a crowbar, the other a knife. "Open the trailer, lady," the one with the crowbar growled. My heart raced, but I kept calm, years of solo driving kicking in. I backed toward the cab, shouting into my CB, This is Southern Star. Mile 45 on Highway 70. Two armed men need help. No response, but I kept the mic live, hoping someone was listening. The men advanced, and I noticed my trailer's seal was cut, the lock dangling. They'd been here before I stopped. I climbed into the cab, locked the doors, and checked my brakes pedal soft, air pressure low. They'd cut the brake lines, too. I honked the air horn, hoping to scare them or draw attention. The men pounded on the cab, the crowbar denting the door. "Open it, or we drag you out," the knife wielder yelled. I grabbed my phone, praying for a signal, and dialed 911, getting a faint connection. Highway 70, west of Hot Springs, two attackers, sabotaged rig. I shouted before the call dropped. At 3:05 p.m., headlights appeared a pickup truck, not police, but a local farmer. John Harris, who'd heard my CB distress call 10 miles away. He fired a shotgun into the air, and the men fled into the woods. Harris stayed until Arkansas State Police arrived at 3:20 p.m., led by Trooper Linda Chun, a 12-year veteran. Chun found the cut brake lines, sugared fuel, and tampered trailer. The electronics were intact, but the seal's serial number didn't match my manifest. A swap had been attempted. Chun called in the Arkansas's Criminal Investigation Division, SEAD, suspecting an inside job. SID agent Maria Lopez, a 15-year investigator with expertise in organized crime, took over. Lopez's team traced the sabotage to Michelle Torres, my dispatcher. Torres, 35, had been working with a theft ring for 18 months, targeting 27 drivers with high-value loads. She'd reroute them to remote roads, where her crew, led by ex-trucker Victor Salazar, would sabotage rigs, steal cargo, and sell it on the black market. The ring netted $6.2 million in stolen goods, including electronics, pharmaceuticals, and auto parts. Lopez found Torres's burner phone records, showing texts to Salazar about my load. Southern Star, Highway 70, 2:30 p.m., hit it. My detour was a setup. The sugar and cut lines meant to strand me. Lopez's team raided Torres's Memphis office on January 20th, 2014, at 6:47 a.m., finding forged manifests, stolen cargo lists, and $50,000 in cash. Salazar was arrested the same day in Little Rock, caught unloading stolen TVs. Torres confessed, naming 12 accomplices, including mechanics and spotters at depots. She'd been paid $5,000 per hit, exploiting her access to driver routes. In November 2014, Torres was convicted of racketeering and conspiracy, sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. Salazar got 20 years. The case led to industry reforms, encrypted dispatch systems, route verification protocols, and driver safety training. I still drive, but I map my own routes now, and every detour makes my skin crawl. Highway 70 taught me that betrayal can come from the voice you trust most. My name is David Miguel Rodriguez, and for 19 years, I've been a long-haul trucker, hauling freight across the Southwest with a 2010 Freightliner Cascadia I call Desert Runner. I'm a 44-year-old from El Paso, Texas, known for my punctuality, my knack for dodging border delays, and my habit of keeping a detailed log of every run. On September 9th, 2016, I was hauling a load of auto parts, $2.3 million worth of engines and transmissions, from San Antonio to Tucson along Interstate 35, a 900-mile stretch through Texas's flatlands and desert. The night was hot, 82 degrees Fahrenheit, with a clear sky and the hum of cicadas filling the air. At 8:15 p.m., I pulled into the Northway Way station near Laredo, a routine stop I'd made hundreds of times. But what started as a standard inspection turned into a nightmare, exposing a cartel-run theft operation that stole $14.7 million in cargo and nearly cost me my life. The Northway Way station was a concrete bunker off I-35, with 2 lanes, a scale house, and a small office manned by Texas Department of Public Safety, DPS inspectors. I'd been through it dozens of times. Show your logs, weigh the rig, maybe open the trailer for a quick check. I pulled in at 8:17 p.m., logging the stop, and handed my paperwork to Inspector Carlos Valdez, a stocky guy with a clipboard who seemed new. My dispatcher, Maria Chun, had checked in at 7:30 p.m., confirming my delivery in Tucson by noon the next day. The load was sealed, the manifest clean, and my rig had passed a full inspection in San Antonio 2 days earlier. But Valdez's questions were off. "What's in the trailer, Rodriguez?" "Specifics," he demanded, not glancing at the manifest. "Auto parts as listed," I said, keeping my tone neutral. He pressed, "Any electronics? Valuables?" Red flags went up. Inspectors don't fish like that. The inspection dragged on for 2 hours. Valdez and another inspector, Juan Morales, tore through my cab, copying my driver's license, logbook, and even my phone's IMEI number. They demanded I open the trailer, which I did at 8:45 p.m., revealing neatly stacked crates of engines. They poked around, using a handheld scanner that beeped oddly, not standard .deer. My cell signal dropped to 0, despite full bars outside Laredo. At 9:30 p.m., I overheard Valdez on his radio, whispering, "Rodriguez's load, high value, clear for the hit after release." My blood ran cold. I'd heard rumors of crooked way stations cartels paying off inspectors to target rigs, but never seen it. I kept calm, memorizing their faces, their badges, the radio's frequency. At 10:10 p.m., they let me go, but Morales handed me a detour advisory for a closed I-35 section, directing me to a back road, FM 1472. I smelled a setup. Instead of taking the detour, I drove to a brightly lit pilot truck stop 10 miles away. Arriving at 10:35 p.m., using the payphone, my cell still had no signal. I called Maria, then 911, reporting the suspicious inspection and overheard radio chatter. Texas Rangers arrived at 11 p.m., led by Captain Sarah Lopez, a 15-year veteran. I showed her the detour slip, described the scanner, and repeated Valdez's words. Lopez's team inspected my rig, finding a GPS tracker hidden in the trailer's wheel well, broadcasting to an unknown server. The trailer's seal was intact, but a microchip embedded in it was transmitting data, likely cargo details. The Rangers launched an immediate raid on Northway. At 11:47 p.m., they arrested Valdez, Morales, and 3 other inspectors, who weren't DPS employees, but cartel operatives posing as officials. The way station's computers held stolen driver data IDs, routes, cargo manifests for 200 trucks over 2 years. The cartel, Los Zetas, had turned Northway into a front, targeting high-value loads for hijackings on remote roads like FM 1472. Lopez's team found $14.7 million in stolen cargo electronics, auto parts, even weapons in a Laredo warehouse linked to the station. The detour was a kill zone. 3 drivers had vanished on FM 1472 since 2014. Their trucks found empty, 1 body in a ditch. FBI agent Daniel Rivera, a 12-year specialist in cartel operations, joined the case. Rivera's investigation revealed the ring's scope: 27 operatives, including fake inspectors, mechanics, and spotters at depots, coordinated by a Zetas lieutenant, Miguel El Curvo Sanchez. My load was targeted for its resale value on the black market. The sting continued, using decoy rigs to lure the cartel. On September 15, 2016, at 2:13 a.m., a joint FBI Ranger operation arrested Sanchez and 22 others on FM 1472, seizing $3 million in cash and weapons. Valdez and Morales turned state's evidence, exposing the cartel's infiltration of 5 Texas way stations. Sanchez got life in 2017. The others got 10 to 25 years. The case shook the industry. The Texas DOT purged corrupt inspectors, installed cameras at way stations, and mandated badge verification. Drivers got training on spotting fake officials. I still drive, but I bypass small stations, check my seals with a flashlight, and carry a burner phone. Northway's now a ghost station, closed for good, but its lesson lingers. Even the law can be a trap on the open road. My name is Michael James Harrison, and for 22 years, I was a long-haul trucker, one of the most reliable owner-operators in the Pacific Northwest. My 1999 Kenworth W9 OOL was my second home. A red and chrome beast I kept in pristine condition, hauling everything from lumber to frozen seafood across the rugged highways of Oregon, Washington, and beyond. I was known for my punctual deliveries, my knack for navigating mountain passes in any weather, and a safety record that made me the go-to guy for high-value shipments. But on March 8, 2005, as I drove through the snowy Blue Mountains on Interstate 84 in eastern Oregon, something happened that erased me from the road, leaving my truck abandoned and my fate a mystery that still haunts the trucking world. This is the story of the Blue Mountains vanishing, a tale that defies explanation and lingers like a cold fog over those desolate peaks. It was a brutal morning, with heavy snow falling steadily, visibility down to less than 200 feet, and wind gusts rattling my rig. I was hauling a load of frozen seafood salmon and crab from Seattle to Chicago, a temperature-sensitive shipment worth $120,000 that demanded precision. I'd checked in with my dispatcher at 4:30 a.m. from a way station near La Grande, reporting deteriorating conditions, but nothing I couldn't handle. I'd driven these mountains hundreds of times, knew every curve and incline, and my Kenworth was equipped with chains, extra fuel, and a top-of-the-line heater to keep me and the cargo safe. My GPS showed me at mile marker 248, cruising at a cautious 45 miles per hour, with a planned rest stop in Pendleton by 7:15 a.m. At 5:47 a.m., I responded to another driver's CB call about the weather, confirming my location and advising caution. "Slow and steady, boys," I said, my voice calm. That was my last transmission. What happened next is pieced together from what others found, because I don't remember it. At 6:15 a.m., another trucker, Robert Yamamoto, spotted my rig pulled over on the shoulder near mile marker 263, about 15 miles east of Meacham. My hazard lights were flashing, the engine still running, the cab door wide open. Yamamoto, a 15-year veteran, stopped to check on me, a code among truckers on dangerous routes. He found my coffee thermos, still warm, spilled across the passenger seat. My wallet, cell phone, and logbook were scattered in the cab, as if I'd bolted in a hurry. The cargo was untouched, the trailer locked tight. Most chilling, no footprints in the fresh snow around the truck. Not a single track leading away, despite 6 inches of powder covering the ground. It was like he vanished into thin air, Yamamoto later told police. He tried raising me on the CB, but got only silence. Oregon State Police got Yamamoto's emergency call at 6:22 a.m. Trooper Jennifer Walsh arrived at 6:51 a.m., battling the storm to reach the scene. Walsh, with 12 years on the force, was stunned. "I've seen accidents, breakdowns, even suicides," she said, "but never a truck left like this engine on. Door open, no sign of the driver." The cab was a snapshot of chaos. My logbook open to the day's entry, my phone showing a missed call from my wife, my jacket still slung over the seat. The snow around the rig was pristine. No signs of a struggle, or even a step away from the door. The cargo was secure, the reefer unit humming at a steady 28 degrees Fahrenheit. Walsh called in search and rescue, and by 8 May, a full-scale operation was underway. K-9 units, helicopters with thermal imaging, volunteers from the local trucking community, all braving the blizzard to find me. The search stretched for days, then weeks, covering a 5-mile radius of dense forest, steep ravines, and rocky cliffs. The Blue Mountains are unforgiving thick pines, sudden drops, and creeks that can swallow a man whole. Even with dogs and heat sensors, they found nothing, no tracks, no clothing, no body. My wife, Ellen, drove from Seattle, clutching a photo of me from our last anniversary, begging for answers. The media picked up the story, dubbing it the Blue Mountains Vanishing, and truckers across the Northwest shared theories on CB channels. Hypothermia, a fall into a ravine, even alien abduction. But the lack of footprints killed most rational explanations. Snow doesn't lie, and it said I hadn't walked away. Detective Raymond Foster, a 15-year veteran with expertise in missing persons and mountain searches, took the case. He dug into highway records and found a chilling pattern. I wasn't the first. Over the past 8 years, 4 other truckers had vanished within a 20-mile radius of my location, all with similar circumstances: trucks abandoned, personal items left behind, no footprints, no signs of foul play. In 1997, Carl Thompson's rig was found near mile marker 260, engine running, door open. In 2000, Maria Lopez disappeared at mile 255, her coffee cup still in the holder. In 2002 and 2003, 2 more drivers, John Reed and Samuel Chun, vanished, their trucks untouched. Foster noted, these were experienced drivers, not rookies. They knew the mountains, knew the risks. Something systematic was happening. The investigation took a strange turn when Foster consulted the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, whose lands overlap the Blue Mountains. Tribal elder James Yellowbird shared ancient stories of the area being a sacred crossing, a place where spirits could pull travelers into another realm, especially during winter storms. The mountains don't always let go of those who pass through, he said. Legends spoke of lights in the forest, voices calling names, and travelers lost between worlds. Foster, a skeptic, couldn't ignore the parallels. Multiple drivers reported strange lights and CB interference on I-84. Linda Chun, a trucker who'd stopped to help a stranded motorist 3 weeks before my disappearance, described a pale figure with black eyes and outdated clothes, her truck's electronics going haywire as she fled. Archaeological records added weight. I-84 was built over an ancient Umatilla migration route, with burial sites and settlements uncovered during construction in the 1970s. Some tribal members believed the highway's intrusion angered spirits, causing them to claim travelers. Foster's team re-examined my truck, finding faint electromagnetic residue on the wiring, as if hit by a localized pulse. No mechanical faults, no drugs in my thermos, no signs I'd been drinking. My CB logs showed static bursts at 5:50 a.m., minutes after my last call. The search continued for 6 months, with over 200 volunteers and $500,000 in resources. Nothing. On September 15, 2005, I was declared a missing person under suspicious circumstances. 7 years later, Ellen had me declared legally dead, though she still leaves voicemails on my old number, hoping I'll answer. My Kenworth was released to my insurer, the cargo delivered late but intact. The Oregon Department of Transportation added call boxes, lights, and patrols to I-84, and tribal leaders blessed the highway in a 2006 ceremony, hoping to calm the spirits. Truckers still talk about me on CB channels, calling that stretch Mix Mile. Sightings persist: lights in the trees, figures with black eyes, trucks stalling. In 2019, a driver posted dashcam footage on X showing a shadowy figure vanishing into the snow. The Blue Mountains keep their secrets, and I'm one of them. A ghost story for the next driver who dares to pass at dawn. My name is Daniel Big Dan Martinez, and for 15 years, I've been pounding the pavement as a long-haul trucker, hauling everything from electronics to machinery across the vast, unforgiving landscapes of the American Southwest. My routes have taken me through blistering deserts, treacherous mountain passes, and endless stretches of highway where the only company is the hum of your tires and the occasional crackle of the CB radio. I've seen my share of oddities, coyotes darting across the road like shadows, dust devils twisting in the distance like lost souls, and weary drivers pushing their limits just to make the next deadline. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what happened on that fateful night of October 12, 1998, on Interstate 40 in the desolate New Mexico desert between Albuquerque and Amarillo. It's a story that's haunted me ever since, one that's become part of the whispered lore among truckers, a tale of the phantom hitchhiker who refuses to let go of the road that claimed him. Let me set the scene properly, because to understand the terror, you need to feel the isolation. I-40 cuts through some of the most barren land in the country, a ribbon of asphalt flanked by miles of scrub brush, rocky outcrops, and in sky so big it swallows you whole. By day, it's a hot, dusty grind. By night, it's a black void where your headlights are the only light for hours. I was running a full load of electronics DVs, stereos, the kind of stuff that's valuable, but not irreplaceable, from Los Angeles to Dallas. My rig was a 1996 Peterbilt 379, a beast of a truck I'd customized with extra lights, a comfortable sleeper cab, and a top-notch CB setup to stay connected with other night owls. I'd logged thousands of miles in her, and she never let me down. That night, the weather was ideal. Clear skies, no wind kicking up sand, temperatures around 55 degrees Fahrenheit cool, enough to keep you alert without freezing your bones. I'd fueled up in Albuquerque earlier, grabbed a quick bite of truck stop chili, and hit the road around midnight, aiming to push through to Amarillo for a proper breakfast at dawn. My dispatcher had checked in at 2:30 a.m. as I passed Tucumcari, a small town that's little more than a cluster of motels and gas stations clinging to the highway like barnacles. "Clear roads ahead, Big Dan," he'd said over the phone. "No reports of accidents or weather. You're on schedule." I confirmed my position mile marker around 300 and signed off, settling into the rhythm of the drive. The CB was quiet, just the occasional chatter from a couple of other drivers complaining about fuel prices or sharing tips on the best diners. I had my thermos of black coffee, a pack of smokes, and a cassette tape of old country tunes. Johnny Cash singing about ghosts and outlaws, fitting for the hour. At 3:15 a.m., about 28 miles east of Tucumcari, the world shifted. It started with a glint in my headlights, a figure on the right shoulder, standing stock still, thumb extended in that classic hitchhiker pose. He was middle-aged, maybe in his 30s or 40s, dressed in a brown work shirt, blue jeans, and scuffed construction boots that looked like they'd seen better days. His hair was short, practical, and his face was turned slightly away, as if gazing into the darkness beyond the road. The temperature was dropping, but he wasn't bundled up, no jacket, no bag, nothing to suggest he'd been walking long. In my line of work, you learn to spot trouble. Drifters high on something, desperate folks running from the law, or worse. This guy? He didn't wave frantically or step toward the road. He just stood there, frozen, like a statue planted in the dirt. My gut twisted. "No way," I muttered to myself. The nearest town was over 20 miles back, and there were no broken-down vehicles in sight, no flares, no signs of distress. In 15 years, I'd never picked up a hitchhiker company policy. Insurance risks and plain common sense kept me from it. I eased off the gas slightly. My eyes locked on him as I approached, but I didn't stop. As I passed, I caught a better look. Pale skin, almost ashen, and eyes that seemed to reflect nothing, just dark pools absorbing the light. A mile or so later, I checked my mirrors out of habit, expecting the highway to be empty behind me. But my blood ran cold. There he was again, standing on the shoulder ahead, same pose, same thumb out, as if he'd teleported. What the hell? I slammed on the brakes for a second, my rig groaning in protest, before accelerating again. I'd been doing a steady 65 miles per hour. No human could have covered that distance so fast. No car had passed me. No motorcycle. Nothing. The desert was flat here. No places to hide or shortcuts to take. My mind raced hallucination from fatigue. I'd slept 8 hours the day before, per regs. A prank? But who pranks in the middle of nowhere? I grabbed the CB mic, thumbing the button. Breaker 19, this is Big Dan eastbound on I-40 near mile 328. Anyone copy a hitchhiker out here? Over. Static hissed back, thick and unnatural, like the radio was drowning in white noise. I switched channels 19, 9, even the emergency 9, nothing but that empty hiss. At 3:32 it happened a third time. There he was, not on the shoulder this time, but smack in the middle of the eastbound lane, standing motionless, arms at his sides, facing my oncoming rig. I cursed, yanking the wheel left to avoid him, the trailer swaying dangerously as I crossed the median line. The air brakes hissed, but I kept control, glancing in the mirror as I passed. Close up, his features were sharp-high cheekbones, a day's stubble, but his skin was wrong, too pale, too smooth like wax. And his eyes. Black, completely black. No whites, no irises, just voids that pulled at you like gravity. As I straightened out, my dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree, gone mad. Headlights flickered on and off. The speedometer needle spun wildly from 0 to 120. The fuel gauge dropped to empty and shot full. The CB screamed a high-pitched whine that pierced my eardrums, forcing me to rip the headset off. The cab lights dimmed, the radio cut out, and for a terrifying moment, I was driving blind in the dark, relying on memory to keep straight. The engine chugged on, but everything electrical was fried. "Come on, baby," I whispered to my Peterbilt, coaxing her through the chaos. After a minute or two, the system stabilized, but the damage was done. My nerves were shot. I pushed on, sweat beading on my forehead despite the cool air. At 3:45 mph, I spotted headlights in the rearview another truck, closing fast. I flashed my hazards, slowing to let him catch up. He pulled alongside, a blue Kenworth with Chen hauling on the door. The driver, Robert Chun, a stocky guy in his 40s with a mustache, rolled down his window. "You okay, buddy?" He yelled. I shouted back about the hitchhiker, the black eyes, the electrical failure. His face paled under the dashboard glow. I saw him two up on the overpass ahead, just standing there, looking down. We drove together to the overpass. No one. No footprints in the dust, no ladder marks, nothing. We searched with flashlights, calling out, but the desert swallowed our voices. We made it to a truck stop in Tucumcari. By 4:12 miles racing. Using the payphone my cell was dead, I called the New Mexico State Police. Sergeant Maria Rodriguez arrived at 5:30 a.m., a no-nonsense officer with 10 years on the force. She took our statements, noting every detail, the old-fashioned clothes, the black eyes, the impossible relocations. Her team searched with K-9 units and a helicopter at dawn, covering miles of desert. Nothing, no footprints, no clothing fibers, no sign anyone had been out there. But Rodriguez confided that we weren't the first. Over the past 3 months, state troopers had fielded similar reports from truckers on this stretch. Thomas Harris on August 28th, a hitchhiker who vanished after being passed, leaving his truck's radio stuck on static. Maria Santos on September 15th, electrical malfunctions after seeing a pale figure in 70s attire. William Bill Morrison on September 23rd, 3 sightings, ending with the overpass, just like us. Detective Ray Hoffman, A seasoned investigator with 12 years in highway patrol and training in unexplained phenomena took the lead. Truckers are reliable witnesses, he told us. No drugs, no alcohol, your logs check out. But this is the I-40 Phantom. He delved into archives, uncovering the key. November 3rd, 1976, hitchhiker Raymond Morris, 34, a construction worker, was struck and killed by a semi driven by Gerald Matthews on this exact spot. Morris's car had broken down. He was thumbing to Amarillo. Matthews said Morris appeared out of nowhere in the road. The impact was fatal. Morris's body mangled, clothing scattered. But witnesses reported the body vanishing from the scene, reappearing along the highway during the investigation, like it was restless, unfinished. Matthews, traumatized, retired immediately, never driving again. Morris's photo from his driver's license? Identical to our descriptions. Same face, same hairstyle, same 70s work clothes. The investigation expanded. Hoffman interviewed more drivers. A convoy in 1985 saw a similar figure, trucks stalling. In 1992, a female trucker reported black eyes staring from her mirror for miles. By 1998, the pattern was clear. Sightings peaked around November. Morris's death anniversary, always between 3 and 4 electrical failures, were common, as if the Phantom drew energy from the vehicles. My Peterbilt needed $2,500 in repairs, fried wiring, burned circuits, no mechanical cause. Chun's rig had minor issues, but he quit night runs after. The case was classified unexplained in December 1998. Safety measures followed. Call boxes every 5 miles, extra patrols, better lighting. Truckers funded a memorial at mile 278 in memory of all travelers who found their final rest on America's highways. Annual services in November draw dozens, sharing stories. I've heard update sightings in 2005, 2012, even 2023. One trucker in Arizona, I-40 extends there, recorded a ghostly figure on dashcam. Similar black eyes, vanishing. Reddit forums buzz with theories. Skinwalker, time slip, restless spirit. For me, it's personal. I still drive I-40, but with a crucifix on the dash and extra coffee. The Phantom's out there, a reminder that some roads hold memories that never die. My name is Anthony Vincent Castellano, and for 27 years, I was a long-haul trucker, a grizzled veteran known for hauling high-value loads across the Northeast with a 1997 Volvo VN that I treated like family. I'd seen it all: blizzard whiteouts on I-90, traffic snarls in Philly, and shady characters at backwater truck stops. My reputation was ironclad. No late deliveries, no damaged goods, and a sixth sense for trouble on the road. On November 17, 2006, I was running a sealed load from Baltimore to Pittsburgh along Interstate 76 in Pennsylvania. A 230-mile stretch I knew like the back of my hand. The cargo was listed as specialized equipment, and I didn't ask questions. High-security jobs paid well, and my company, Northeast Freight Lines, trusted me to deliver. But that night, the trailer felt wrong. The road turned hostile, and I uncovered a smuggling operation that nearly cost me my life and shook the industry to its core. It was a chilly night, about 42 degrees Fahrenheit, with a light drizzle making I-76 slick but manageable. I'd picked up the load at a secure warehouse in Baltimore's industrial district at 6 p.m., signing for a trailer sealed with a tamper-proof Lock L. My dispatcher, Carla Evans, gave me strict orders: no stops except for fuel, no detours, and deliver to a Pittsburgh military contractor. By 2 a.m. I checked the trailer's exterior standard 53-foot dry van. No markings except the company logo. But as I hit the road at 6:30 p.m., I noticed something odd. The trailer felt warm to the touch, like it was radiating heat, despite the cool air and no reefer unit. I chalked it up to new insulation or cargo packing. but my gut, honed by decades of hauling, whispered trouble. By 8:15 p.m., near mile marker 110 east of Harrisburg, the CB on Channel 19 started buzzing with strange chatter. Voices I didn't recognize used coded phrases. Eagles got the package. Stay on the nest, not the usual trucker banter about weather or diners. I kept quiet, listening as the voices mentioned the Baltimore load and Pittsburgh drop. My load? My skin prickled. I switched to Channel 9, hoping for clearer air, but the codes followed, now mentioning Castellano's rig. They knew my name, my route. I double-checked my locks and kept my speed steady at 60 miles per hour, scanning the mirrors for tails. At 8:47 p.m., a black SUV with tinted windows appeared behind me, keeping pace but staying just out of clear view. Another joined it, a gray Ford Explorer, weaving slightly like they were signaling each other. At 9:10 p.m., my cell rang an unknown number. I answered, expecting Carla. Instead, a distorted voice, cold and precise, said, "Pull over at the next rest area, Castellano, or your wife in Scranton gets a visit tonight." My heart stopped. My wife, Maria, was home alone, our address unlisted. I kept the line open, saying nothing, and called Carla on my second phone, whispering, "Threat on my family. I-76, mile 120. SUVs tailing me. Get the cops." Carla, a 15-year dispatcher, didn't hesitate, patching through to Pennsylvania State Police. The voice on the first phone grew impatient. "You've got 10 minutes to stop, or she's done." I hung up, focusing on the road, the SUVs now closer, one pulling alongside, its passenger window cracked just enough to show a glint of metal a gun. I was near Breezewood, a busy truck stop hub. By 9:45 p.m., I ignored the rest area, knowing it was a trap, and pulled into the brightly lit TIA Travel Center, parking between two other rigs for cover. The SUVs circled the lot, but didn't follow. I locked the cab, grabbed my tire thumper, and called 911, relaying everything, the codes, the threats, the tailing vehicles. Trooper Daniel Rivera arrived at 10:03 p.m., followed by a tactical unit. Rivera, a 12-year veteran, checked my trailer and found something chilling. The seal was intact, but a hidden panel near the landing gear concealed a tracking device, military grade, broadcasting my location. The trailer's warmth, not insulation heat signatures from electronics inside, inconsistent with the manifest's machinery claim. The investigation exploded. FBI agent Lara Chun, a specialist in organized crime, took over, suspecting a smuggling operation. They opened the trailer under federal warrant at 11:30 p.m., revealing not tractor parts, but $8.7 million in stolen military radar components prototypes for a classified DARPA project. The manifest was forged, the warehouse in Baltimore a front. Chun's team traced the tracking device to a contractor, Colonel Marcus Webb, a 20-year Army officer turned trader. Webb had been selling military tech to foreign buyers, using truckers like me as unwitting mules. The CB chatter? His crew, coordinating the intercept to steal the load before Pittsburgh. The threats to Maria? Real Webb's team had her address from hacked company records. Chun set up a sting, using my rig as bait. At 1:15 a.m., they staged a fake breakdown on I-76, luring the SUVs. SWAT arrested 6 men at 1:47 seizing weapons, jammers, and stolen manifests. Webb was nabbed 2 days later in Baltimore, his operation tied to 23 others across the East Coast, including dock workers, dispatchers, and a Pentagon insider. The bust recovered $12 million in tech and led to 23 convictions, Webb getting 30 years in Leavenworth. My testimony was key, but it came at a cost, Maria, and I relocated, and I retired in 2007, unable to shake the fear of being a target. The case changed trucking. Companies tightened cargo verification, added GPS trackers, and trained drivers on threat detection. Breezewood's T got armed security, and I-76 saw more patrols. I still hear those coded voices in my dreams, and I check my mirrors for SUVs that aren't there. The road doesn't forgive, and neither do the shadows it hides.